Hello and welcome. This is Dr. John Mason. I'm really thrilled today. I have a very special guest, and we're going to be introducing our May 17th Masters of the Journey third Sunday meeting to you. I met Wendy Rose Williams through our friend Raven Many Voices, and she is going to be doing a wonderful program called Raising Our Vibration at 5D and Beyond during tumultuous times. And so I want to welcome her and just give a little bit of a promotion to get her background and find out what we're going to be doing on May 17th. So hello, Wendy Rose Williams. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, John. I'm so happy to be here and just delighted that we're going to be planning this program together. So thank you.
Yep. Well, and as you can see, I'm calling in from the beach because it's a lovely spring day. But can you give just a real short synopsis on what happened for you in the late 90s that got you into this work?
Absolutely. I just came from a conservative background. I didn't expect to wake up spiritually. It just really snuck up on me in a major way, starting with a near-death experience that I had when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter back in '97. So that was an important start of it. And then in 2010, I really started to get on this path and to look at the nature of our soul and just to realize that we are eternal souls. We're not just doing a one-time gig here. And that just took so much pressure off. I just started to feel so much happier when I realized that, and just more intuition and more innate wisdom started to come back to me once I read the Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. That was the big wake-up call for me, in combination with meeting a soulmate who had the contract to literally wake me up spiritually. So he was the one that told me about Journey of Souls and told me about past life regression and life between lives. And that's what got me on my path.
I know that there's a longer version, and I am excited to talk to you about that at some point in the future. You have a spectacular background, and I know that what you do mostly during the day is you are a certified hypnotherapist, and you do a lot of past life regression therapy work with people. And how did you get started on that? And
I got started in that from having read Journey of Souls, and Journey of Souls is Dr. Newton's longitudinal study of 7,000, just the highlights of his clients that he saw over his entire career. And he then wrote that into a book, what the past life regression learnings had been for those patients, as well as the life between lives, which was the 4-hour technique that he came up with to help people journey home when they're not in a body and had moved out of that whatever body and moved into their pure soul state. So that was what really got things going for me. And then I read the book in 2010. And in 2011, I had my own first past life regression, which just changed everything for me. Because in a mere 2 hours, I was able to release 49 years of anxiety and to have that be gone. And the next year, I had my own life between lives. And then the year after that, I knew I was supposed to train. So.
Well, I lost a little bit of the recording, but it's perfect. Let's move on, because we're going to do a longer interview, I hope, in the future.
Okay.
But you asked whether we'd like a program about 5-dimensional consciousness, and what is that anyway?
Sure. I see the dimensions, the spiritual dimensions, 3D, 4D, 5D, and higher dimensions as being spiritual planes of existence where we are. And my personal belief is that Earth raised her vibration back on December 21st, 2012, which was known as the shift. And there was a lot of talk at that time about new earth and get ready to embrace new earth. And it was the end of the Mayan long calendar, which didn't literally mean the end of the world, but it meant it was a 2,000-year shift back to an age of Aquarius. The astrology changed, the energy changed, and Earth raised her vibration. And there were a lot of people that woke up spiritually at that time and had huge heart openings and just started to change their lives in some pretty dramatic ways. Or have them changed for them if they weren't quite ready, because our guides can do that for us too, because they know what we agreed to before we came. And sometimes we need that push. And those pushes don't feel good when it's something like an unexpected job loss or car collision or marriage or long-term relationship falling apart, those sorts of things. But we can choose to grow through them, not just go through them. So I think that's a lot of what was going on in 2012 that then came to a head again recently with COVID-19 and Earth again raising her vibration, because the changes are profound when you look at these few short months of so many of us having been at home, not driving. And when you look at how clear the night sky is, when you're able to see the mountains in Los Angeles and places that are usually just filled with smog, when there may even possibly be dolphins back in the canals of Venice, that's pretty magical to me. So that's what I feel 5D is the place where we get our heart opened, we get aligned with our higher self, and we just start to do our work of what we're really meant to come here for.
Yeah, and I know that we're going to be doing a video conference meeting presentation. You're going to be leading that on May 17th. It's going to be at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And I did a little bit of research, and tell me if I'm wrong. When you're talking about 3D, that's the normal earthly life and the drama that we are normally doing in the 3 dimensions that we have with the constraints of time and space. And 5D, if I can skip through 4D, 5D is really connecting with the divine source and realizing our place in the universe, connected with all other things and vibrating at a much higher level of consciousness and being.
Yes, exactly. You've got it just right, John. And maybe another couple quick examples I jotted down. Some of the major differences that I see between 3D and 5D consciousness is 3D. It's very ego based. So there's a lot of fear in it, because if we look at what was our ego meant to do originally, it was meant to keep us alive. It was meant to tell us, holy crap, there's a saber-toothed tiger, you better be focusing. And so it's just, it's kind of this fearful place, because we've outgrown it in a lot of ways, and we just don't have those same sorts of threats, but it's this old habit. Whereas 5D, it's much more soul-based identity and being willing to entertain, if not fully embrace, the thought of, what if we really are eternal souls? What if we do have a higher self? What if we do have guides? What if we have the privilege and the pleasure of incarnating many times? What if we do have free will and we're not just victims with everything being done to us? What if we can grow up and elevate from that type of thinking? 3D, it's also the separation consciousness versus unity consciousness in 5D. And that's one of the things I'm really noticing the irony of right now, is we need to be physically distant, but people are not socially distant, and they're not distant in their hearts. A pandemic, in a challenging way, in a tough way, it does teach us we are all one. Because look at how that virus jumped, through the world very quickly. I live in Kirkland, Washington, ground zero for it in the U.S. So that's some of the other changes. 3D, it's also conditional love. that type of love of, take a simple example of a romantic partner. Well, I'm not going to say I love you until that person says, I love you to me first. Or I'm going to love them if they exhibit these certain behaviors. Or I'm going to love them if they're fulfilling needs in me. Whereas that unconditional love that many of us feel when we hold that newborn infant for the first time, there's just no barriers on it. It's not based on what that amazing infant, does, or it's just very, very different. In 3D consciousness, there's a lot of victim mentality of, oh my gosh, this is horrible. The sky is falling. Why do bad things always happen to me? And, why can't I get control? And, why do other people have this great health and wealth and wonderful relationships? Well, what if you step to the plate and say, hey, maybe the common denominator in why I keep having these tough lessons is me. What if I could try and change my energy? Could I create a better experience, something more in line with what my heart wants? So there's another difference is believing and knowing that we co-create our reality. In 3D, you've got that seeing is believing, very suspicious. It's kind of beyond skeptical. It's very suspicious, whereas 5D is more of the believing is seeing, and you can start to tap into those other realms. I'll be honest, I earned my MBA when I was 22. I never thought I'd be sitting here having a conversation about other realms being possible and being able to connect with the fairies and the dragons. I just didn't expect to be having these conversations. So it's, I really can understand where people are coming from to go of, what are you talking about? This is really different for me. So you just have to take your time and see what's resonating for you, and just be willing to say, well, what if, what if that wacky dream I had, really was helpful? What if this out there book might have been science fiction or movie or TV program? What if that really could be real? What would that look like for me? And you're just starting to co-create more of that. And in 3D, you've got that dense energy and just manifestations, making things happen. It's really slow. Whereas in 5D, because the vibration and the frequency are higher and faster, you've got more of the instant manifestations. Penny Pierce's book, Frequency, really brought that home for me. And she writes about how we manifest more quickly and powerfully than we ever did before. So you have to be careful, because if you are thinking, oh my gosh, this is terrible, and everyone's going to lose their jobs and there'll be no new jobs and we're all going to starve to death, well, what are you starting to create? So we've really got to get some control over that and give ourselves some beautiful self-care and just do things to keep our vibration and frequency as high as we can. And if you just need to, take that beautiful walk in nature, if you need to bake that batch of chocolate chip cookies, if you need to call that wonderful friend you haven't talked to in 20 years ago, figure out how FaceTime works, figure out how Zoom works. You can have that face-to-face connection, that heart-to-heart connection, not just the voice connection. So those sorts of changes. In 3D, I really see the mind as ruling, and our poor overworked minds, our poor brains, just that monkey mind, just that, exhaustion of like trying to work harder all the time and just trying to get ahead. Whereas if we can really take a breath of life in 5D and be in that place where the heart rules, it's pretty different. It's pretty different. So I see that as another change. And the last two major differences, contrasts I see between 3D consciousness and 5D is in 3D, mankind is really fearing chaos, fearing randomness, fearing unfairness. So I want to say this gently, but it's kind of like our maybe our toddler or our teenager stage in some ways. We've all absolutely been there, and we're working, to evolve from that. Because in 5D, when you can start to really embrace, there is a divine order. The universe has got my back. It's going to be okay. I don't know what this new earth is going to look like, but I'm going to choose to trust. And that's really important if you can choose to trust that everything's going to happen for the highest good, and look for what the good is in what's come about. Because yes, there's been lots of rough stuff with it too, but just focusing on that. And the perhaps one of the biggest changes or differences, contrasts I see is in 3D. There's a scarcity mindset, which is what leads to competition. It leads to war. It leads to poverty. It leads to so many issues of I'm different than you, and I deserve this, and you're not going to get it. It's just that competition. Whereas in 5D, it's abundance. It's this abundance mindset of how can we co-create together. And I'm seeing so many healers and light workers and all kinds of people just giving away wonderful things, giving away programs to help others, or just really making a big change in their prices to try and help people afford what they need to be able to get into their heart. So,
Well, you're probably already way into this May 17th program. There's so much that you're chatting about, laying the foundation. If we have the saber-toothed tiger or the pandemic at our front door and they're knocking and trying to come in, I am really looking forward to the program, because we need to examine how we can find joy, how we can find wisdom from the challenge that we're all experiencing. How can we do it from our heart and not just from our fear-based mind? I'm just trying to precipitate down a little bit about what I was getting by hearing your wonderful description of it. Is that fair for me to say? Did I cover some of that?
absolutely. You summarized it really well, John. I see 5D as being the place of peace and love and joy. And that's not just airy fairy woo-woo talk. It's just very real. And how can we find ways to make that, to seat that energy, to help that energy land by being part of that, because we've got to create it. I mean, no government, no parent, no ET is going to fly down from the sky and just hand us this and go, woo, here you go. Here's peace and love and joy. Here's heaven on earth. We've got to do the work, and we've got to figure out some new solutions, because when we are able to start to reinvent reality and reinvent our daily lives, we can't just go straight back into where we were because of what was happening to the planet, because of climate change, because of the disparities in income. There's got to be some changes. So I think we're in a great pause right now. I heard someone use that term, and I think that's just a perfect term for it. Maybe a simpler example is when you work in a company and there's going to be a big change in the corporate culture and the company's agreeing and wants to go a different way. You can't be going in one direction and the next day have a very different direction or a very different corporate culture. There's got to be a pause, because you've got to get your employees and your customer input. There's got to be retraining. There's got to be some real heart put into it before you can then reinvent in a more sustainable way.
Well, with what we're going through in this interesting, challenging pandemic time, it really has changed a lot. People are going to want to hold on. They're want to go back to the life that they had, and I'm not sure that that's going to be available to us. a month from now, when we do this program, we'll probably see a lot of things happen between now and then with resistance to positive change. But if we come at this from our heart and from our guidance, and we use our meditation and time in nature and be present with our breathing, you're going to give us a lot of tools, I hope, or at least we're going to discuss them on May 17th, for taking us from a 3D consciousness, hopefully moving up our vibration to a 5D consciousness. And the guarantee is, and it's a money back guarantee, that on the 17th, everybody will come out of that meeting with the tools for complete enlightenment. And everybody who's going to be on that call is going to be completely enlightened with a high vibration, or your money back on this free seminar.
There you go. That's perfect. And I want to bring some humor to it. And I'll be sharing on the 17th what my journey was to move up to 5D, because many people do it gently and slowly, and they're not necessarily conscious of it, and we don't have to be. But I had a very conscious experience for a couple of months in 2013, and I made every mistake in the book. And had all kinds of issues with it. So it just actually makes for a great story to share then, as well as there's a lot to learn from all those mistakes that I made, because it'll help other people find their way. Because this is not prescriptive in any way. There's no one way to raise your vibration, to raise your frequency, to get happier and healthier and more peaceful and loving and more joyous. We've all got to find our own way, because we've got our own unique personality and nature. We've got our own unique lessons that we need to learn. But I will share those stories.
I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that everybody is willing to tune in on to our video conference on May 17th. I think it's May 17th. All right, yes. It's going to be the third Sunday in May.
That's the correct date.
It's going to be 1 o'clock Pacific time for people from around the world, if you can kind of do the math and tune in. We're going to send out the links to that. We're going to be inviting quite a few people from around the country. Is there any resources or anything that you want to give people in preparation for?
Absolutely. I'll share the list. I've got a couple of books that helped me the most with these concepts, and just helped me try to manage my own energy, because since I went through such a rapid process with it, I was just reeling. So the first book that I found was Sabrina Reber, and her last name is spelled R-E-B-E-R, How to Raise Your Vibration Workbook. And all of these are on Amazon or wherever you like to shop for your books. And that workbook was incredibly helpful to me because she'd gone through her own process, and she'd had a 2-year, what's called a dark night of the soul, where she became very depressed and just had to work her way through out of it. And she did it by writing and illustrating just these gorgeous full color illustrations that are hers of how she raised her vibration. So I used that workbook. It was super, super helpful to me. And then I discovered Penny Pierce's book, Frequency, The Power of Personal Vibration. And Penny spells her name Pierce, P-E-I-R-C-E. If you're looking for that on Amazon or wherever else. And that's where I really learned, oh my gosh, because she's not specifically talking about the law of attraction, but that's what it is. Whatever we're putting out, we can't attract what we want to attract if we're not already being it, if we're not doing our best to be it, because it just doesn't work like that. So her teaching that instant manifestation. So I think she's the one who where I learned, don't have stinking thinking. Just do your best to, and we all have those moments, and that's appropriate, and we're human, but just do your best to recognize it and don't stay there too long. If you need to give yourself permission to have a grumpy day, a depressed day, a couple of hours, do what you need to do and really feel it, because then you can let it go. And just, rise up again to the place where you want to be. And then I discovered Diana Cooper's Ascension Oracle cards. And those Oracle cards are a little bit different because they come with an actual book, not just a book how to use the cards, but an actual short book on accelerating your journey to the light. And I found that really helpful. And I found just sitting with those cards very helpful to calm myself when I was just getting really freaked out and frightened and scared about XYZ, and learning how to let go of that and give some of that over. Just finding that way to believe everything's going to be fine. And then the fourth one that I found most recently, I was a fellow teacher when we were at the Wisdom Soup Summit together, is Maureen St. Germain, and she wrote a wonderful book called Waking Up in 5D. And she's the first one who really explained to me, well, it's not this sequential one time, now I'm in 3D, now I'm in 4, now I'm in 5. We go back and forth, and it's a matter of months, years type of thing. But she's the first one that explained to me, if you are suddenly forgetful as heck, and you're just misplacing all types of objects, but then they suddenly come back, but they're in a different place, and you've never put your keys there. You know it. Or you've never put, the certain crystal or jewelry or these little items. So she gets into what's going on with that, which is just fascinating.
Those are a lot of resources for us, and there will be, for all of you who see this promotional video, there will be a quiz on May 17th, and you'll be tested on how much of information from any of those books you may have absorbed, like our sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce. Maybe just by knowing that the book is out there in the world, your consciousness is now being raised. That's my joke. If you can't wait and you want to get some information about past life regression therapy or the hypnotherapy that Wendy Rose Williams does, you can find her on the internet. Her website is Wendy, Wendy, Rose Williams, Williams with an S, all one word, .com, WendyRoseWilliams.com. And there's information about how to get in touch with her both before the 17th and then obviously after the 17th. Is there anything you want to say as we close down this promotional video that we're making?
I'm just so looking forward to it, John, and really appreciate your work and you providing this platform and helping provide just a nurturing, informative, educational program for people. So appreciate so much what you're doing and looking forward to connecting with people.
I am really excited about our program. Our community comes together because we believe that we're all masters, whether we know it or not. We have wisdom and things to share. And we come together as a community because we need community. We need to share our stories. We need to hear other people's stories so we can gain some perspective on our lives. And Wendy Rose Williams is going to be there on 17th. Totally looking forward to that presentation, because remember, we have the guaranteed enlightenment. 5D is where we're all headed, and you're going to get some information and some tips about how to get closer to that and spend more of your life living in 5D. Thank you once again, Wendy, for coming and speaking with me today. I appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you, John.
You bet. Okay, we're going to see you on the 17th. And please, between now and then, stay safe, be healthy, find love and joy every day. And when you can, find your way into the present moment, really appreciating the miracles of you and the life that is around you. You are a blessing. Thanks for taking your time to watch the video. Bye-bye.